Hello everybody, welcome back to the last video of the year, and of course it is the tradition to do the movies I've seen worst to first, and this time obviously it's for 2025. And so I did see a bit more films than I did the past year, but still not a total amount. But let's just jump right into it. At number 15 we have Lilo and Stitch 2025. Again, easily the worst film of the year by far that I've seen. And this wasn't that great of a year all around, I guess, in the movies I've seen. Like, there were some great ones, obviously, we'll get to, but this one definitely takes the cake for the worst because, and for one, it's kind of my fault for, I guess, having faith in it as I did, because this was one of the few that I was actually kind of looking forward to in terms of the live action adaptations. Because it's like, how do you mess this up? Because Lilo and Stitch has become so beloved, specifically Stitch, and the theme park group of fans, and going to conventions and just seeing Stitch everywhere. People adore the character, and just what they did by, I mean, as usual, most of the stuff was kept the same, but here the stuff they changed was just so ridiculous. Like, no Captain Gonto, making the scientist like the actual like bad guy. And that just doesn't fit with his character and what the original film did. And also having, the older sister give away her younger sister so that she can go to college. And it was just kind of like jarring. Like, what? That goes against the whole Ohana means family. But anyways, that trash is at the bottom of the list. At number 14, we have a Minecraft movie. Again, yes, this film was also dog shit, like a complete abomination to film, and I had fun watching it. As I said in my review when I talked about it, this film was a blast to watch with how dumb and just ridiculous everything was. But I also really hate the director especially involved for encouraging people to trash the theaters and saying, hey, they're making fun memories and it's their job to clean up. I'm like, screw you, dude. That just put a bad taste in my mouth and made me think sourly of the film, which on the film on its own I thought was just bad in terms of the effects, the performances, the story, the characters. Everything was awful with the film, but that alone on top of it just made me hate it more. At number 13 we have Shelby Oaks. And it really hurts me to put this low on the list because I really respect and admire Chris Stuckman, one of my favorite movie critics, one of the people that inspired me to even do what I'm doing right now, even as like a hobby. But the film, compared to everything else that came out, you could just tell it's a first film. And that doesn't mean it's necessarily all around bad, but it was just kind of there. Like, the film did have some intense moments. It got me interested, and the performances from the main actors was great. But the ending of the film really, I remember a lot of people were like, this ending ain't it. And that's how I kind of felt. So here it is. At number 12, we have Captain America, Brave New World. Yes, the worst superhero film, Marvel film, whatever you want to call it, of the year. And it's still kind of average because, you still have the characters that you know from the previous material. Like Anthony Mackie does a pretty solid job. But the film is just kind of meh throughout. Like, there isn't very much new substance that it brought to it. Harrison Ford, obviously, I thought was, pretty great, filling in for the previous actor who passed away as, Thunderbolt Ross. But the fact that the film they really leaned in on Red Hulk and everything, and that's only in 5 minutes of the film, like at the end, that was a huge letdown. And there's a lot of other factors why it's this low, but here it is low on the list. At number 11, we have Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Yes, we had to put this sucker low on the list because not only was it really as good as the original, but and a lot of people really hated the original in terms of the critical space. But this film, the thing that was really gnawing at me while watching it is that it's just setting up the third film. And there are some great moments, like the opening scene was pretty great, and the third act where all the animatronics are like let loose and the gang has to try to stop them, and especially that ending at the house, like, it's all really solid stuff. But the film overall just feels like we're just having to play wait for the next film, and that's unfortunate. But it was pretty solid overall. At number 10, we have Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. And for those who know me, this being in my top 10, despite me thinking it's pretty average, just tells you what I feel about this year. This year just didn't have a lot of great films that I saw. But this film, for what it was to end the series, I'm pretty sure it ends the series, especially with these box office performances. It was all right. It did what it needed to do. That thing on the poster where it shows Tom Cruise on the plane and stuff, that was the highlight of the film, 100%. There was some solid action in it, some good character moments with the cast that's still there, but the film was just it was just a weaker version of the previous one, and it feels like the films just decrease in quality as they went along, because it felt like each film was better than the last as you look back. But yeah. At number 9, we have 28 Years Later. Again, another film that I felt really disappointed by, especially compared to that incredible trailer. Like, truly one of the best trailers I've ever seen. But I didn't really like how they handled, because I really thought we were told one thing with, the father-son. They were going to be, going into the woods, and they were going to be bonding and learning stuff and all that. But then it turns out the father's just kind of a deadbeat and, cheats on his sick wife and all that good stuff. And so the son leaves with the sick mom, with his mom, and they try to find a cure to help her. And it becomes like a different film that you were told, which really irked me the wrong way. But still, there were some tense moments. The soldier dude that was in it was the highlight, and I'm devastated they killed him off so early. And me and my dad were like, that dude is the best part of the film, why do that? But again, this is where the film lands. At number 8, we have The Bad Guys 2. Again, I feel confident from here on. I did think all these films were pretty solid to great. And I thought this was like a really fun sequel to the original. And not a lot of people, I felt like, talked about it or really went to see it because of the other animation stuff that you'll probably see on the list later. But I felt like the voice acting all around was pretty good. The animation was also really sharp and really nice. And the character moments, also introducing female versions of, the bad guys, the bad girls. I thought all that was just kind of, pretty cool, and I enjoyed the film. At number 7, we have The Fantastic Four: First Steps. Again, the main thing this film has going for it is the costume design and set production and all that, because it really feels like it takes you to some type of futuristic 60s, and I really thought that was awesome. And the interpretation of the cast, I thought they all did a pretty solid job. Even Pedro Pascal, who I kind of despise, I thought he was really good as well. And I really enjoyed Galactus. I thought he was a really solid villain for what he was in and stuff. I was really intrigued by their plan to try to stop him and how it could really tie in to potentially more of the grander Marvel universe. And I really liked that sense of family and them, we're a family, we gotta stick together and all that, which I know could be kind of played out in some of these type of movies, but I really did like it. At number 6, we have David. Yes, this was my last film I saw of the year, and it's up this high. Thank goodness I was able to see another good film, right? But yeah, I thought this film was like a blast to watch. I saw it with my mom, and I really enjoyed the message that I was really trying to tell and stuff was really sweet. It just felt like such a holiday good feel type of movie. And the animation, you could tell it was like low budget and everything, but that added a bit more to the charm on this small film, going up against all these titans around the holiday season. And the performances, there was some good action. Like, all around, the film was pretty interesting to watch, especially, learning more about, the story of David, which there was a lot here that I wasn't really sure about, so I thought it was kind of cool to watch. At number 5, and I'm really shocked this is in the top 5, Jurassic World: Rebirth. And I say I'm shocked not because I hate the film. I thought it was pretty good all around, but it was not nearly as good as, the earlier Jurassic World films, I felt. Like, especially that first one. And I thought it was pretty good, though. The new characters were kind of good to introduce, like Scarlett Johansson, Jonathan Bailey, Mahershala Ali. Those are, I guess, our new trio for this new set of films they're doing. And I thought, the family that, from that little boat that gets rescued, and you have that subplot with them. I thought that was pretty. I really enjoyed watching them throughout the film. You have the stereotypical human antagonists, which you could, see from a mile away. You could predict that story. There's a lot of the same stuff you could predict with these films that could maybe make it a bit boring, but I enjoyed being back in this universe, and the plot I thought was pretty simplistic as well, but I was really mainly here for some dino action, which is kind of not as grand as it has been in the past, obviously, but I was really there for that and for like the characters who I did like overall. At number 4, we have Superman 2025. Now, this I thought was a lot of fun, and James Gunn we trust, and I thought he knocked it out of the park trying to bring DC back to somewhat its glory days, because obviously the DCEU has been a train wreck, and he's just trying to right the ship and start anew. And I think this is like a really great first film to do that, because it makes Superman actually like Superman, this hope, optimism. Nothing from Man of Steel is present here, and that's for the best. I think the recasting of David Corenswet was great, and obviously the menace Lex Luthor, Nicholas Hoult who plays him. Again, those two performances and their roles really carry the film in a lot of ways. And of course, a lot of the side characters, like the Lois Lane actress, was great, and the background characters and stuff, Daily Planet, and the Fortress of Solitude. I think all that is just great. At number 3, we have Thunderbolts. Easily the best superhero film of the year, and it breaks my heart because it's the worst performing one of the year. But I think the fact that they were able to get a bunch of B-list side characters, and Bucky's there too, and get them all together, I think it's great, and the film works as well as it does. And it gets that lady, the Valentina lady, who we've been seeing pop up in previous stuff. Like, I believe we saw her pop up in the end credits of Black Widow. She was in that second Black Panther film, and she's been slowly entering the scene here and there, and seeing her become more of like, she's the main antagonist really of the film, and trying to use Bob, who becomes Sentry with these incredible powers. And I think all that was great, along with seeing the Sentry's powers and how OP and just crazy it was, especially with him turning people into the shadows and all that. I think all that was great, along with the banter of our group of characters, Bucky, Red Guardian, Yelena, and Ghost, the the discount Captain America we all know, Walker. I like seeing all their banter and end up becoming like their own little dysfunctional team. I think all that was just a lot of fun. At number 2, we have Demon Slayer Infinity Castle. Yes, I knew when I saw this film, it was like, I knew even before I saw it, it was peak. But the beginning of the end of Demon Slayer, and it's going to be like a trilogy of films to end the official arc of the story. And this first half, which a lot of people who've read the manga and really know say it's the weakest, that doesn't mean it's bad. They say it's like the weakest in terms of what happens and developments in the story. And wow, if this is the weakest, I can't imagine what we're in for, because this film was magnificent in terms of the animation, the grand scope. Each battle, whether it be Zenitsu versus his peer, or Shinobu versus Doma, or even the big grand one that lasts like over an hour, it felt like, with Tanjiro and Gyu versus Akaza, which pays off to the previous film, which is the Mugen Train, because of what Akaza did to Rengoku and how Tanjiro couldn't do anything to help. And it was just like the whole thing, and it was just fantastic. The developments for its characters, and especially you actually feel really bad for like Akaza in particular. It's like an hour backstory, and we were all just like, whoa. And it was such a fun experience, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes in the next 2 films. And of course, no surprise, number 1's Utopia 2. Easily the best film of the year, which it was kind of a weak year overall, but this was definitely the best film for me. I've been waiting for this film for 9 freaking years, and it delivered in every way. I thought it was just as good as the original. I have to rewatch it a couple times before I decide if it's better. But seeing, the development of Nick and Judy as, not only partners, but they potentially something else, which I think they're definitely going to lean into in the third film, which we are definitely getting after the box office of this. I thought adding, the storyline with, Gary the Snake and, the Link Seas and how all that played out. I thought that was like really interesting way to take the story, seeing more of this world, which is always great when you have films like this to expand upon a new world and just keep giving us more lore and content. I think it's just great. The returning characters have, some pretty solid moments like Flash. His return was brief, but also really fun. Chief Bogo's back, Clawhauser's back, and they have their moments, but at the core that makes the film really work is the dynamic of Nick and Judy, and that's what really makes the film truly special. Again, those were all the films I saw of 2025 ranked worst to first. Did you guys see any of these films, or do you want to let me know what some of your rankings are down below? Please let me know. And if you want to hit the bell and subscribe to when I upload, that means so much to me. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you later. Bye.